got the divorce, did he move to Oklahoma with his son, the defendant?
Yes.
And did Christopher stay in Florida with Cathy?
Yes.
Now, did approximately 3 years go by when the defendant was living in Oklahoma with his dad before the defendant came back to Florida to live with his mom in Port Charlotte?
Yes.
Now, during that time period, what state did you live in?
New Mexico.
And is that where you still currently live?
Yes.
All right. Now, in Cathy's adult life and later in her life before she died, did you have an opportunity to go on a trip or some trips with her?
Yes.
And how would you describe your relationship with your daughter on those trips?
The trip out to California, we went through the Painted Desert, we saw the Grand Canyon. It was wonderful.
Is it difficult for you to be here today?
It is.
And what are your thoughts about the defendant?
He's my grandson. I love him. But I...
Sustained.
All right, now, let's go on this. In the first photograph, is that you and your daughter?
It is.
Do you remember where you guys were?
We were at the jungle ride at Disneyland.
What about here in 180?
That's Cathy at the Grand Canyon.
181 says Continental Divide.
It is. That's in eastern New Mexico.
And then...
I'm holding up the other side of the sign.
All right. Did the sign fall down or not?
We held it in place. Cathy and I did a good job that day.
All right. What about 183?
That is Cathy with a huge log of petrified forest. And that is the largest meteorite or a piece of the meteor that impacted in Arizona.
And then final photograph?
That is my birth mother. And Cathy and I, so we have 3 generations there. That was for her 90th birthday.
All right, now Mr. Lantis, when the defendant moved back to Florida to live with Cathy, was Cathy happy about that?
She was thrilled.
Now, during the time period when, since then, when he moved back to Florida and lived with her, did she try to make up for lost time?
She did.
And what were some of the activities that she and your grandson would do?
They had to catch up on 3 years of school. Collin was 3 years behind. And then they also caught up on the 4th year. So he got 4 years of education done in a single year. That's a huge accomplishment. They went to Australia, Central America, the Caribbean. She wanted to give him...
Sustained.
Now, Mr. Willantis, what was your daughter's profession?
She was a teacher.
And what subject matter did she teach?
Mainly English, but she would do other humanities as well.
Now, tell briefly to the jury about your relationship with your grandson. Did you have a relationship with the defendant?
We would talk on the phone, but I'm not a helicopter parent. I was there to support him and to support Cathy and to love them and be there for them.
Based upon your personal observations, did it appear that the defendant trusted you and would talk to you and confide in you about certain things, grandfather, grandson topics?
Yes.
Did there come a time when the defendant said something to you that was very disturbing to you?
Yes.
Tell the jury about what the defendant said to you.
My grandson was very aggravated at his grandmother and his mother. He said, "I am so tired of these 2 bitches. I'm disgusted." He said, "My mom, I keep thinking over and over, I want to slit her throat. I want her to bleed out. I want to smell the blood. I want to feel the blood. I want to feel the life and the blood leaving her body."
Now, when he said that, what went through your mind?
I needed to take a deep breath and do what I could to discourage that thought, because thoughts become words, words become actions.
What did you say to him in response?
I said, Collin, I love you, buddy, but you can't have those kinds of thoughts and focus on them and then speak them, because you will cause them to become reality. Please think positive things about your mom, about yourself, and about a good future together.
Now, at any point, did you warn your daughter about what the defendant was wanting to do to her?
I did, but I did not use the exact words because there was so much malice.
Objection, Judge.
Now, explain to the jury, were you concerned that if you used the exact words the defendant said that he wanted to do to his mom, that might negatively affect their mother-son relationship?
It would, and I was afraid it would actually give her nightmares.
Did you tell her a clean version or a more vanilla version, if you will?
Yes, I did.
What was her response?
That he's been threatening her, and he's been threatening Susan multiple times with killing both of them.
Now, knowing that, though, did she still want him in the household and wanted to keep having the relationship with him?
Yes.
At Cathy's funeral, did you?
No.
Can you explain why?
The funeral for a person is for those left behind. I will see Cathy in my thoughts, in my mind. That's where I want to keep her. Attending a funeral where her body is placed in the ground, that's not Cathy. Cathy's spirit is elsewhere. The essence of Cathy is elsewhere. She's with me. She's here in this room today with each of you. She can speak to you. She can speak to me.
Mr. Willantis?
Ma'am?
I asked whether you went to the funeral and why. Just answer that question, please.
You interrupted me as I was explaining why. That you don't like my response, ma'am, that's your problem.
Judge, would you please?
If you would avoid the commentary and you've asked the question.
I did ask the question, but then he's talking about her being present and speaking to the jury, which is non-responsive.
Sustained as to non-responsive, that portion.
Mr. Willantis, the pictures showed a trip that you took with Cathy. That was one trip, right?
That's correct.
Have you taken any such trips with any of your other children?
No.
Do you have memory problems, Mr. Willantis?
With what, ma'am?
Just in general.
Oh, sometimes I might think it was something that occurred a week ago, and it's actually a week and a half ago.
Okay, but that's the extent of your memory problems?
Usually, yes.
When was it that you say Collin told you that he wanted to slit his mother's throat?
I believe it was 4 months before she was murdered. It may have been before that.
And Judge, I'm going to ask that he be instructed not to use terms like that. That's for the jury to decide.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is up to you to decide whether or not there was a murder in this case. You'll disregard that, the use of that word.
Mr. Willantis, please tell us the month, if you remember, that Collin supposedly told you the things that you've shared with the jury today.
May.
May of what year?
2024.
Okay. And how did he tell you? Was it over the phone or by text?
Over the phone.
Okay. And what's your phone number?
505. This is being broadcast. I really don't want everybody calling me.
Would you shut the feed off, please, for just a moment?
Yes, sir.
All right. Ms. Thorne?
Mr. Valantis, do you have any other phone numbers that Collin would have talked to you on?
No.
And you're certain that the phone call happened in May of 2024, aren't you? Because you said it happened shortly before the presidential debate where Joseph Biden had to later withdraw from the presidential race, correct?
It was before that. How much before that? Was it a month? Was it a month and a half? Could it have been 2 months? Sure.